Hey
Yeah.
Matt, how you doing?
Great. How are you, Monica?
Great. I'm not in my normal rig here, so I'm really glad that you can hear me.
Yes.
Uh yeah, so I'm very interested in the topic that you suggested today. And just why don't you give me your side and I'll give you my side.
Okay. I love it. And I always appreciate our conversation. So we always get into it and there's no I appreciate your non-tribal approach, just like
Oh,
we have.
not
So
at all. No,
yeah,
no,
and
no.
that's so it's refreshing to say the least. So what better
Agreed.
time to do it than this story? I saw you had shared out this Wall Street Journal article, and this is something I know a lot of people on the left are celebrating this as a win because it's supposed to be there's a principle to this. So let's look at the story. This is
Yeah.
a judge rules that Trump's use of wartime powers to deport Venezuelans was unlawful. It was the first direct ruling against President's the Alien Enemies Act to expedite removal of alleged, and we say alleged gang members because you can just say someone's a gang member, but
Yeah.
just you're getting them out of the country. People that are here legally and saying go to another country. El Salvador, particularly, where he sent Venezuelans to El Salvador, stuck them in the super prison, and we never hear from them again. And a judge is saying this is not lawful. And this Alien Enemies Act, he used it to detain and deport alleged members of a foreign gang. It's unlawful. This was a Texas judge that ruled on Thursday. This was on Thursday of this last week. The decision from U.S. District Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. in the Southern District of Texas is the first direct ruling against Trump's use of the 18th century law to rapidly remove hundreds of individuals from the country without hearings. The order came in a case filed by a group of migrants detained in the facilities of South Texas under the act. Rodriguez, who was nominated to the bench by Trump during his first term, ruled the government can't detain the plaintiffs solely on the basis of the Alien Enemies Act. And then your response, I like this question because this is we all need to look at this question. This is the quote from the article: President Trump using the wartime Alien Enemies Act detaining people in a foreign gang is unlawful, but will it be deemed lawful to suppress objections to a war in the Middle East? More importance of war. That's the question we need to ask. And are we going to be selective and picky choosy about this? And are the judges going to come out and hold Trump accountable on these other situations, which it seems like we might have to say that to anticipate and answer that question, no, they're not going to be consistent because some of these policies are something that all of the establishment, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, you're all on board with. So why would you tamper with that? You're only going to tamper with the ones that help you politically, as we've seen. So I don't believe there's going to be any consistency here. So if Democrats are celebrating right now this ruling as if it's some sort of based on some sort of morality or justice that's consistent, you got another thing coming. This is a political maneuver from my vantage point. That's what I'm seeing. What are your thoughts, Monica?
Yeah, I think that first of all, this brings this thing back into the public consciousness. So there were four Alien and Sedition Acts. We probably heard about that when we were in school, and it was deemed wrong. It was during the founding period, is in the late 1700s, and the three out of the four acts did not pass constitutional scrutiny. And I can't remember really have a hearing of the Alien Enemy Acts being
Mhm.
used since then. It might have been, I don't know, but nobody really heard of it. Now what you're doing is saying, "Oh, here's an act." The judges aren't going to say this thing is unconstitutional. What they're going to say is it needs to be applied maybe against enemies in time of war. So they'll, by saying you can't use it for this, they might say
Mm.
you can use it for that. And that's the setup. So then it'll already have been established. He's going to say, I'm allowed to do this. They just told me I was allowed to do it. And this isn't the only thing where I think the immigration issue is being used as like a straw man or red herring, whatever the right word for it is. I think also the deportations or the surveillance, the technocracy, the real ID. Real ID was first suggested after 9/11, but now they're acting like it's a way that its primary purpose is to suppress or to fight illegal immigration. So I think they'll implement it that way. I had at first thought that the Biden era pro-Palestinian protests, which I'm not even sure I like that expression. I really feel like it's anti-war protests, that they would extend into Trump's time and that he would use that as an excuse to really crack down, really implement surveillance and censorship and the technocracy. But now I'm thinking he's got so much wind in his sails for the immigration idea that maybe he's going to implement all that stuff with all his cult of personality behind him saying, yes, go for it. Then he works out the kinks. So when it is time to suppress war protests, if the war in the Middle East does escalate and the U.S. starts to get more involved in that, he'll have the apparatus really vetted by the immigration issue. So when and if the pro-Palestinian protests get more oxygen again, or the anti-war protests, they can go in with this mechanism that they've been using against the immigrants.
Yeah, it seems to be the timing on this is just, it's so, I don't say it's bizarre because this is obviously he ran on immigration. So you knew he was going to come in, swinging on that. But we also knew that he was being handed not just a proxy war in Ukraine, he's being handed this Democrat-funded genocide in Gaza, this Israel first mechanism where, again, he's running on America first, but he just takes the mantle from Biden and continues funding money into this whatever Israel wants kind of situation. And like you said, it's not just pro-Palestine, it's anti-war, it's anti-occupation, it's anti anything we're doing in the Middle East, which we should, and especially Trumpers, they should know better because of the fact that you're saying America first. Why the hell are we working on behalf of a foreign country? So the timing of this, Monica, is so interesting to me because yes, on one hand, you'd hope that the anti-war movement could position this, you'd leverage this, but I don't see that going to happen because they already have their arsenal in place. Things like this. We saw the HR 867 bill go to the House yesterday. This right here, if you guys didn't see this vote was yesterday. The House will vote Monday on HR 867. It's an anti-boycott act. Anti-boycott act. Okay. I wonder what it's going to specify for the boycotting. It can't just be anything willy-nilly, right? They have to be very clear about what is it that you can't boycott. Sponsored by, of course, a Zionist rep, Mike Lawler. The penalties are going to be fines up to $1 million, prison sentences up to 20 years. And this is the penalty if you're an American, not a green card holder or a visa card holder, an American citizen participating in boycotts of Israel or its settlements. If these boycotts are endorsed by the international bodies like the UN or EU, this thing has bipartisan support, Monica. We've seen people coming out from the Dems supporting this. These ones all supported. These are all Democrats. All support this bill. Josh Gothenheimer, Jared Moskowitz. We got Joseph Morell, Donald Davis, Laura Gillen, all supporting this thing. Do you know who's not supporting it? Was Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Really?
That's a good one. I want to get this shows me so I get some sort of hope that you can do the right thing at least one time and show us that it's not about tribalism here. She's laying down the line and saying, I will be voting no. It is my job to defend Americans' right. This is what we're just talking about. America first, right? That's the why she campaigned for Trump. It's America first, America's rights to buy or boycott whomever they choose without a government harshly fining or imprisoning them. But what I don't understand is why we are voting on a bill on behalf of other countries and not the president's executive orders that are for, let me get that thing up so I can see the rest, that are for our country. Great point. So, seeing this thing go through, I know a lot of people said, well, you don't have to worry because even if the House votes yes, that it's not going to go any further than that. Well, apparently it got removed. So enough protest happened that they're not moving forward on this. So I guess that is good news. But what do you say to this even existing in the first place, Monica?
Well, I have a few comments on that. Just because it's gone for now doesn't mean it'll be gone
Right.
forever. Kamala Harris's husband drafted that anti-Semitism bill that was rejected a year or two ago, where it did actually specify, I don't remember the exact language, but the idea was you could not criticize the policies of Israel. And that was going to have some implications for universities and stuff, but that went away. But it will come back, and I see this bill also. What I expect, and that's probably the same thing. They floated out. It's, I think, called messaging bill, something like that. But what I've been anticipating is something a little bit bigger than that, which is you'll have a whole host of these laws that will define different things that are not okay to do. And again, I feel like these things are coming as an anticipation preemptively to make sure there's total censorship when it comes to any kind of war protest. Because I'm afraid in the Middle East that we're talking about a bigger war. So they're roping in, I mean, you can see it spreading: Lebanon, Syria, Yemen. I think Iran is kind of controlled opposition, but that doesn't mean they won't participate in a war. So it could be very big and really get some protests going. So there was something I noticed recently where I couldn't crack the code on the JFK reveal that had a lot of like they unredacted the Israeli intelligence involvement in it. And there was like 35,000 pages or something of JFK material. And all anyone focused on were those unredacted or the Israeli intelligence lines. So on the one hand, you're not looking into the other stuff. There was probably a lot more interesting stuff in there. But you're also getting people to not only self-identify as potential war protesters, but really kind of proclaim themselves or, actually make statements that under some of this future legislation that I anticipate would violate that anti-Semitism laws. And then you can take out that entire alt media universe. But how that ties into these laws is, at the same time, I saw that Trump's like a private attorney, Boris Epstein, I think his name is, he is helping the Trump administration, go after law firms who have defended or represented people who objected to some Trump policy. And I'm sure you've heard the story, or if you read the newspaper every day, you can see many law firms are being negotiated with or intimidated to not object to Trump. And in order for them to get the lawsuits against them dropped, they have been agreeing to do a lot of pro bono work. So the pro bono work, and I actually think they like it. They want to do it just like the universities. They want the cover to not take these cases. The universities want the cover to not allow this speech. But what the law firms are doing, they're offering up tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in pro bono free work, and one of the things they've cited specifically they're going to do is draft anti-Semitism legislation. And that will give that legislation free. There'll be a lot of legislation, all be drafted free. And those firms either won't be allowed to because of conflicts of interest, or will just not feel like they have to defend or represent anyone who might object to those laws. So you really conflict out a whole huge swath of the highest powered attorneys in the country. And I think that's part of the thing. So you get them to draft it. They won't fight it. I mean, I don't necessarily, I'm not positive all these things are going to happen, but they're all being put in place, I think, in case they have to have a full court press against people who object to war.
Yeah, I think you're spot on when it comes to that. They're not going to stop here at the HR 867 bill. They are setting up the chessboard. So we're seeing this, and I can understand that if you're one of these organizers on one of these campuses and you're seeing the bullying and like what you're mentioning about, like there's incentivizing here, right? They're saying, hey, we're going to give you these pro bono deals and then you're going to wrap the stuff up. At the same time, that's the bullying of the campuses that have been getting funding or are being told they can't have funding anymore unless they fall in line. So if you're an organizer on one of these campuses and you're trying to, do the right thing, as we know, you're right as a student, you have a right to go out there and protest against war. We've grown up with that. We were taught that, yet it doesn't seem to be playing out in the way that we were taught should be. And so if you're one of those organizers right now, you're probably thinking they are surrounding the chessboard. They're making it literally impossible for us to have our First Amendment rights to be vocal again, not against our country, against a foreign country. The fact this anti-Semitism crap is it's sending a message that not only are you going to be made an example of if you put your rights to the test, they're baiting you. It's like, come on, we're going to show you what's going to happen to you if you do this. They'll make an example of you, and what it's also doing, Monica, and I go further and say it's giving away the fact that we are clearly being controlled by another foreign entity, because there's no other situation where this would make any sense at all. How could you possibly convince me that there's any other country that you could get away with it? Say, hey, if you protest against this country, if you protest even China and Russia, who we've made into really whoever we were going to protest against, or one of our allies in Europe, if we're protesting.
How about the Vatican? My comparison is the Vatican. Like if there's something going on in the Vatican, you would never send U.S. troops over there. You would never suppress this, because I'm Catholic and I wouldn't want you to. You absolutely wouldn't. Absolutely not. If something goes wrong with this, with the conclave, and it turns to some kind of Italy invades the Vatican, we're not going to get involved in that.
So this is a massive issue, because this goes beyond Trump's agenda and Trump's plan, and this whole Trump's going to come in, he's going to do all these horrible things. This seems like to be a problem with the structure of our government way before Trump even stepped on the scene. It's just coming to this point, I think, right now, like you said, the escalation in the Middle East coming to this larger multi-country disaster of a war, a World War III. I mean, we're on this a precipice of World War III constantly, but it seems like it's all coming to this point with Trump, who happens to be the face of the operation right now, but they just switch faces. This has been a problem. Do you think that Trump is the one that should be held accountable for the end of our ability to have free speech and have an anti-war movement? Or do you think this is something that we can blame way before he ever stepped on the stage? Does he even have a say in this, or is this something that was inevitably going to happen anyways? Either way,
yeah, it's pretty big, and I think it's been going on for a long time. I think the Ukraine thing, he's doing a commodities deal where he's actually said something to the effect of, now this will give us an actual legitimate reason to go defend them if we want to. So he's setting us up to expand the war in Ukraine. But I thought his first impeachment, which was about him not giving money to Ukraine, was a setup to get Democrats to be pro aid to Ukraine. And I thought, well, if there's a Democrat president, we're going to have this war, problems with Ukraine. So I actually, though, honestly feel that this whole Trump psyop, the specifics of it was a 12-year plan. So I actually think the reason they inserted Biden in there is because, for whatever reason, maybe a little bit of the pendulum swinging or whatever, but every little thing about his not winning that election and getting people to want to rally behind him, that I do believe that was all orchestrated. I think look, people have been talking for decades, as long as I can remember, about war with Iran. Yeah. Never makes any sense why the hell we should have war with Iran. The only reason to have war with Iran is if you take Israel and Iran, if they're in a war, every single solitary country in the Middle East is going to get dragged into that. So if you want to take over that whole region, then that's what you have to focus on. So they've been planning that for decades upon decades. The people move around and stuff, but I think because Trump has such a strong cult of personality, what I actually think they did was they took the real genuine Republican zeitgeist in the Ron Paul movement and they completely gutted it of all content like the Bill of Rights. And they took that energy, though, and they redirected it to Trump. But absolutely 100%, he's face shot people like, oh, look at the thing he tweeted about himself, or whatever, posted about himself being the Pope. He has nothing to do with that stuff. Yeah. Nothing to do with it. He didn't even have a computer when he took office the first time.
Yeah, that's true. And they're very good at getting Democrats and anybody who the Trump derangement syndrome,
Oh yeah,
they find the thing to get there to kind of strike that emotional chord to
yeah.
get them angry about something or scared of something. Trump's in a Pope outfit. Like that's a distraction. Guys, if you got emotionally affected by that, you're being had. It's not real. Just like Elon and the Nazi symbol. I mean, come on. Like the Nazi
Yeah.
salute. Like
They're trolling you. Yeah.
things to hold over you and make you go, oh my God, we're losing our democracy. It's like, I got news for you. We lost our democracy years ago.
I know.
Right?
I live in LA, and I cannot tell you how many times people who are on the left, they really have TDS and they are just so upset about it. And I'm like, yes, but the difference between you and me is I don't think Bernie was the hope. I don't think there is a good guy here. Like, let's wake up and give up on this to back and forth thing. I don't say like go move into the woods or but this two-party thing, it's a complete scam.
Yeah. And you've known about it longer than a lot of people. I encourage people who are like waking up for the first time to start to go, have that aha moment. Maybe now's the time. Maybe you can see it. Maybe you can see it when you see Bernie parading around with AOC saying they're fighting the oligarchy. And you realize, wait a minute, you guys have been funding all of these wars. You've been funding this proxy war in Ukraine. You've been funding this genocide in Gaza. Like, who are you taking on? Oh, Trump's just get him out and everything will go back to normal. That's weird because I think Bernie did a much better job the first time. He fooled me. The first time it made sense.
Yeah, no, people fool. And, even with like Ron Paul and stuff, I think he was legit, but then he kind of like after his stroke and he endorsed Trump. But did you know that AOC was an intern for Ted Kennedy?
She was an intern for Ted Kennedy. No, I never heard that.
Yeah, nobody knows that because they made up this craft cocktail bartender thing for her, and I literally looked up her articles. The place she supposedly made her bones in craft cocktail wasn't even open when she supposedly worked there. No, she was an absolute like a young star at Boston College. She worked for Ted Kennedy. That's the level of the scam.
Wow. And they're going back to that bartender story. We actually just covered earlier on the show. Joe Scarborough was going on about it. Oh, she's the bartender is struggling.
At first they said she was a waitress, and then this bartender was on Jeopardy, like the winningest guy ever, and he had this great story. And it was only after that they switched her story from waitress to bartender. It was just such a sweet ass story. And but I was like, she had a TED talk when she was in college. Like she gave a TED talk in college. Like she is the real deal. And look at how crafted these people are.
Do you think AOC is going to be Bernie 3.0 or Obama 2.0?
Well, she's really going to have the identity thing going, but.
And I mean, in the sense of is she going to sheep herd us away?
Yeah.
When I say us, I mean people who fall for this away from a real populist movement, and at the last second say we did what we could, now vote for the establishment. That's a Bernie move, right? Because he did that with Hillary.
Yeah.
Or is it Obama 2.0? Where he literally she becomes the establishment.
I mean, I could see her like being the president of the idiocracy, like, actually being like President Camacho. but in my mind, what's happening now with Trump and Elon and all that, and to a point you made earlier, like the structure of the government, administrative law is totally unconstitutional. Those are legislative actions made by the executive branch. And this is why it's a problem, because it does set you up for a dictatorship. But what they're doing is they're implementing a technocracy that's going to be very opaque, in my opinion. So when the right is all excited that he's firing all these people, which he is or he isn't, but the budget goes up every single year for the next 10 years. At no point is the government expenditures going down. And in my mind, to the extent they're eliminating actual people from working, that's really just to centralize, to get rid of the whistleblowers, the watchers, and make sure that the power of the government is really concentrated on the top, and there are not a lot of people seeing it. So by the time someone like AOC or AOC herself if she were to be president, there would be so little transparency that she could really she could say whatever she wants, but the mechanism is already in place to round people up, to silence them. There will be finished with all this discussion. So she could do what she wants. She could say whatever she wants, and it's really not going to come out. You wouldn't even know what she was really up to, in my opinion, at that point.
Yeah. Well, what you said earlier, I think is important. We're having these conversations and we're understanding this is not a nihilist. I want to be clear to our audience. This is not a nihilist conversation where we said there's no hope. Just because you're saying, and I agree with you, there's not a good guy in power or working in power. Yeah. That's not nihilism. That's us having that's
realistic.
That's realistic.
Get rid of the facade so that we can deal with the real problem.
So here's what we can do from my vantage point. It's doing what we're doing right now, waking enough people up to have those critical thinking skills available when they pull their next fast one on us. And we go, nah, that's BS. No, because imagine if you had a country full of people that all said, every time they try, you go, and then what would they be left with? And I always go back to a moment. I don't know if you ever saw this. Oh my God, you know what? I'm gonna pull this up because I feel like an activist right now. Just like, I don't know if you've seen this clip. This is Lawrence O'Donnell in 2010, before he got his big primetime show, telling us exactly how the mechanism works, specifically the Democratic Party. But you can apply this to the Republican Party as well. This is the mechanism of how they control you as an American voter, American citizen. Check this out.
If you want to pull the party, the major party that is closest to the way you're thinking, to what you're thinking, you must show them that you're capable of not voting for them. If you don't show them you're capable of not voting for them, they don't have to listen to you. I promise you that. I worked within the Democratic Party. I didn't listen or have to listen to anything on the left while I was working in the Democratic Party, because the left had nowhere to go.
I mean, if that's not a little, quick education in how politics actually works, this is how they work. You have to demonstrate that you don't need them, to not show up at these rallies.
That's why you have 24/7 propaganda on Fox, on CNN, in the alt media, in the controlled alt media. And the message always is this panic against the other side. Yeah. That's why I can't believe that they gave up on Roe versus Wade, because the wedge was always, you have to vote against a Supreme Court justice who might overturn Roe versus Wade. But that, of course, but they want Trump in there, and then they'll get a constitutional amendment enforcing abortion. Like, I mean, and I'm not black-pilled. I'm just saying this facade you're wasting all your time with it. It's wrong. False hope is immoral. Like, you should not have false hope. You have to be realistic. You have to really be realistic and consult your conscience and figure out what to do. But you're not going to figure out what to do if the easy way is to go along with the crowd and say, vote harder.
Yeah, 100%. So this is all we can do is just get people more power back to the people. And you're not, nobody is entitled to your loyalty or your vote or your allegiance. Once people figure that out, they're going to have to come up with a different strategy, because they're going to continue doing this as long as enough people fall in line. So
if it happens quickly enough, they'll have to use force, and then you will instinctively react, which would be great. But the slow burn it's just people go to sleep. Yeah.
Do I have you for like another 5 or so minutes?
Yeah, I'm good. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Because I have, I want to get your thoughts on this. We saw this last week, and I'm going to play a clip of this. This is from the JNS. This audience is in Jerusalem, and her name is Jordana Cutler. And she's the public policy chief, and she's talking in this policy summit where she's basically helped implement, and she's bragging about this, specific protections for Israelis and Jews, and banning content claiming that Zionists run the world or control the media. This is one of her brags, stuff that she's been able to accomplish. We're talking about media, and we're talking about controlling narrative. Let me play a clip of this, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Here we go.
In addition to my work leading the Israel public policy team, I created a new role specifically focused on the Jewish diaspora. It is a privilege to represent Meta to Jewish communities worldwide. I am proud that Meta's commitment to addressing anti-Semitism on our platforms has remained steadfast, especially after October 7th. Our policies are industry-leading in protecting Jewish people and Israelis on our platforms. Our community standards include policies that prevent harassment, violence, and incitement, and include a robust framework to combat anti-Semitism. Our hateful conduct policy includes specific protections for Israelis and Jews. We banned Holocaust denial and distortion back in 2020. We changed industry thinking on this issue, designating denial as hate speech rather than misinformation. It wasn't just about facts, it was about protecting people from harmful conduct. We banned content with harmful stereotypes about Jews, such as the claim that Jews run the world or other major institutions. We updated our policies to recognize that the term Zionist can be used as a proxy for Jews and Israelis. We banned content claiming Zionists run the world or control the media.
I'm going to stop it there.
I get the idea.
We banned content claiming that Zionists control or run the media. How are you able to do that if you don't actually? So I guess it's about, we don't want certain things to be said. I mean, there's so much there.
Zionism is the name of the party and the movement. Like, that's the thing. If you can't name it, why can't you name it? Why is that a dirty word? I mean, it's you know what I mean? That's the name.
Yeah.
So, and it means something, and of course, the crucial difference to me still, and I know we're like moving past this, but yeah, first of all, hate speech doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. There are crimes. There are always crimes. You hurt somebody. These things are well established. It doesn't matter your motive. It doesn't matter the victim. It doesn't matter the perp. But you have to distinguish between criticizing policy or establishing facts and being rude. And I don't like that there's been such a rush of anti-Semitism or criticizing, making fun of Jews, like make a meme with the big noses or whatever, like 100 years ago, because it really gives an excuse to these places to bury the policy critiques of violence, of taking people's land, of dispossessing people of places they have title to. And worse of all is that we will get involved in this war, and that so I would say that the problem starts before her solution, which is there was a movement, there is a movement, a psyop that would get people to, dumb people, but like to be very loose and rude and racist without content, just empty of content. And it just makes that feeling of overwhelming anti-Semitism seem to justify this kind of sweeping policy, which you need to distinguish between, and you can't suppress speech of any kind, in my opinion, but it's really being used to get us into a big war that's going to kill a lot of people.
Well, let me take a devil's advocate on this.
Yeah.
The more I look into Zionism and the function of Zionism and how it if you think of it as in what's going to fuel it, if it's going to pull its tank up and put the gas hose in, what is it fueling up on so it can run? To me, it seems like it one of the things it runs on more than anything is the existence of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I agree.
It can't exist without it. It will be bare dry, and the gas tank will run out. You'll be on empty. It can't run.
And there were complaints that the Holocaust was being forgotten. Remember, that was a big thing for a while there.
Yeah, so that you need to have something to get angry about, something to justify behavior. On October 7th, every day can be October 7th. That's the point. So I don't know if we should be, because your instinct is right to say, wait a minute, all you people stop, all the dumb people, like stop doing
it's being weaponized. It's being provoked and weaponized.
What if all those people figured it out and they were watching our shows and they go, you know what, we're not going to do that anymore. And you don't see any of it. Guess what? Zionism doesn't die. They create the next.
No, you can still criticize Zionism and the policies of Israel and what's going on. I'm saying people will text me with like racial epithets and stuff. I'm like, don't do that. Like, or tweet me. Don't do that. I cannot respond to your point And I always think they're trolls. I'm like, if you're going to start like making blanket statements about Jewish people, we cannot have this, throw it in there. That seems to me like a setup, and that's the foundation upon which that person or the anti-Semitism bill that Kamala's husband wrote up are just over encompassing, and you get to suppress speech that is absolutely 100% political in nature. It has to do with where our name, our reputation, our soldiers, our money. They're our agents, and they're if we go over there, and I'm sure we're participating already, murdering innocent people, like I feel like almost a moral obligation to be a tax protester, to like not contribute anymore. Yeah. Even if it means losing everything. I mean, how do you explain that to St. Peter? Like, yeah, I know, but it's such a hassle to, they were killing people. It's bad. And I think it's really important to focus on the right and wrong of the, of killing, of stealing, of all of that. And, have some discernment, have some a slightly more sophistication in your civics, but this is just playing into the hands of those who have an agenda.
Yeah. So no, the right thing to do is not share those memes. What I am saying though is we should be 100% focused on the Zionist techniques, where they don't need those memes to function. They will find another way. They will tell us that Hamas cut off 40 babies' heads and stuck them in ovens without the proof, and say it was so horrific to see it, I can't even show you, it's so bad. Meanwhile, we're seeing all of their horrific crimes every single day in Gaza, and we can show you very plainly that it's happening. So I'm just saying, they will say the anti-Semitism is happening one way or the other. Whether memes are getting shared or not, they will pinpoint what it is. Just being outside with the Palestinian flag is anti-Semitic.
This is what my answer has always been and will always be for everything, for psyops, for false flags, for fear mongering, for Iran, for everything. You read the Constitution, read the Bill of Rights, and make sure that your stance is always strictly pertaining to that. Like Justin Amash used to go on Facebook and write exactly why he would vote for or against things based on the Constitution. You don't need to know if stuff is false flags, propaganda is true, whatever. Nothing in the Middle East poses a true threat to us. 9/11 was an inside job. Do your homework. That is not a true threat to us. There is nothing legitimately defensive about our activities over there, and we continue to create opportunities to call it self-defense by doing things like getting into commodity deals with a country at war with Russia so that we can justify American interests abroad. So there are no American interests abroad. Lock it up. We're fine. We have food, we have water, we have energy. Don't get involved. Go strict George Washington on this. And you don't have to know whether it's true or not. You don't have to have compassion for those people. You don't have to like or dislike any of them. You just have to say this country was founded on this. This is the limits of the power of the government. You can't take my money and kill people in foreign countries. You can line the borders with people with guns, and that's it.
Monica Perez, I love that your breakdown there. This is about going at things with principle and courage and consistency. It's easy for us to do that and get things right if we apply that to everything. And I think you're doing that, especially here. And we need more. We need that now more than ever. Anything you want to leave us with before you get going here?
No, I feel like it is really important to try to have your eyes open and don't fall for the cults of personality. And if you do, just don't steal and don't kill. That's all.
Seems pretty simple.
It does.
Why is it so hard for people to follow that? I don't know.
Propaganda, baby. It's propaganda.
Yeah. Or God told me to do it. I don't know. I don't know what the excuse is, but you're getting to give yourself a free pass, I guess, if you think it's for a higher cause. I don't know. I don't know what the excuse is.
Yeah, brainwashing.
Whatever it is. Yeah,
or self-interest. Sure. Yeah, self-interest.
Yeah, exactly. Monica Perez, catch her on the Monica Perez show. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope to have you back again. Always appreciate our conversations.
Thanks, Matt, and you always have an open invitation on my show, too.
Oh, beautiful. Love it. Okay.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.